Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. While doing research for our evolution series on different types of walkers, we encountered many different and weird designs that didn't really fall into the category of either scout or armored tank walkers. We also saw a lot of really weird vehicle designs that you don't normally see in the major Star Wars movies, and as an individual who always appreciates outside the box thinking, I thought we'd put together a list of 15 of the strangest looking Star Wars vehicles. The Star Wars galaxy is awesome because it's massive. Massive enough that if you encounter something you don't like, you can always hop over to the next planet or even the other side of the galaxy if you have a fast enough hyperdrive. The massive size of the galaxy also means that there are plenty of different alien species and cultures that have evolved in very different ways. Take the Unborns, for instance. These sneaky pale bastards were strictly isolationist and also incredibly intelligent. This meant that they were able to develop their own technology parallel to the rest of the galaxy, but with very little outside influence. The Unborn militia therefore had some of the most unique weapons and vehicle designs in Star Wars. So this list of strange vehicles would not be complete without them. First, we have the elegant and beautiful Unborn hover tank, a mix between a TIE fighter cockpit and two large Covenant plasma swords. The Unborn hover tank was a repulsor-powered vehicle that fired massive balls of plasma that basically destroyed everything in its way. It did have a weakness though. It was very lightly armored and could easily be destroyed by blaster cannons. Next up, we have the massive Unborn heavy mobile cannon. These were gigantic six-legged walkers that had one giant plasma cannon along with two smaller laser cannons. These enormous walkers had very tough armor and could even withstand attack from a missile launcher. These vehicles were so devastating that it took multiple platoons and even companies of clone troopers to take down. This proved to be a very troubling platform for the JAR to fight against during their invasion of the Unborn homeworld. But perhaps one of the most terrifying weapons in the Unborn militia's arsenal is the impeding assault tank. This was a psychologically devastating weapon because it essentially looked like a gigantic centipede. Each section of the crawler tank had a blaster cannon on it, making it literally a blaster wagon of destruction. What made the impeding assault even more terrifying was the fact that it was shielded and each segment was built with a redundant system, making the vehicle incredibly hard to destroy. Next up, we have the very strange-looking, unstable terrain artillery transport fielded by the Grand Army of the Republic during the Clone Wars. This was a massive vehicle propelled by a unique repulsor lift ski system, which had multiple segments that could change in elevation to adapt to uneven ground. This platform was designed specifically for terrain that walkers traditionally performed poorly on, like soft ground or ground that was constantly moving. It was a massive vehicle at more than 23.9 meters long, and it was also incredibly slow and vulnerable to enemy fire with a top speed of only 45 kilometers or 28 miles per hour. The UT-AT was considered a self-propelled artillery platform and had three giant cannons along with a variety of smaller anti-personnel blaster cannons. It could also transport up to 20 clone troopers and could also carry special bridge laying equipment. Next up, we have the AllTerrain open transport. This large walker had 4 pairs of legs and could carry up to 59 soldiers in its open cargo bay. Although it had some light defenses on it, this vehicle was not designed for combat and used mainly behind friendly lines as a cargo walker. Think of it as a large, friendly walking dump truck. The AllTerrain Tactical Enforcer was one of the most successful platforms used by the Grand Army of the Republic during the Clone Wars. A big part of its success was its versatility and also its powerful mass driver main cannon. The Republic liked this main gun so much that they designed a smaller artillery walker around it called the All-Terrain Attack Pod. This featured a unique 3-legged walker platform which gave it much better stability when compared to 2-legged walkers like the ATST. Nicknamed the sniper tank by the clone troopers fighting alongside it, the AT-PT was an extremely successful vehicle platform. The Separatist army mainly featured a droid or automated army, which meant that a lot of their vehicles also were oddly shaped. For one, their main infantry units could fold up in ways that organics never could, which allowed for weird personnel carriers like the platoon attack craft. This was essentially a hover sled that carried a pod of B-1 battle droids that looked similar to the ones deployed by the multi-troop transport. The pack was much lighter than the multi-troop transport and could be deployed relatively quickly, but it was also extremely vulnerable to enemy fire. The Separatist Alliance also used the very terrifying Trident-class assault ship. Shaped like a gigantic mechanical squid, the vessel could travel both underwater and in space. What made it so feared was the fact that it had 4 magnetic tentacles that could clamp onto a vessel or surface, and a giant drill which could explosively decompress a ship or submarine. The Trident class also carried an attachment of assault droids which it could inject into a vessel after it clamps onto it. The speed of the breaching maneuver made it incredibly effective at assaulting a fortified position as well. The Trident, however, was relatively weakly armored and armed, and could easily be dispatched once it latched onto a target. This Corporate Alliance tank was specifically designed for the Separatist Alliance, and it was one of the few vehicles within the Separatist Alliance that was a tracked vehicle. Designed to look like a slug, this assault tank could function on land, but also had the ability to travel through water, making it a very efficient beach assault craft. During the invasion of Kashyyyk, these floating tanks helped establish a beachhead for the Separatist droid army. These tanks were heavily armored with a variety of ion cannons, blasters, and missiles, but all of these weapons were fixed in a forward position, which further reinforces its assault design. This also made the Persuader vulnerable to being flanked by flying Wookiees. During the transition from the Galactic Republic to the Galactic Empire, there was an initial burst of weapons and vehicle development as Palpatine started pouring money into the Imperial war machine. This is where designs like the AllTerrain Shock Enforcer was first created. Imagine if you took an AT-AT cockpit and body, and then deleted 2 legs and added a giant turret Magna Pulse Arccaster on its back. That's what the AllTerrain Shock Enforcer was. This was almost a more terrifying and feral-looking version of the AT-AT and could move at a faster gait. However, due to its 2-legged design and vulnerabilities, it was never widely adopted by the Imperial Army. A sphere is structurally one of the strongest shapes you could use in a vehicle design. I guess that's why the Empire decided to take the TIE Fighter cockpit and fit it into a tank aptly called the TIE Crawler. The TIE Crawler featured massive treads that could propel it to an impressive speed of 90 km per hour, or around 55 miles per hour. The tank was equipped with a pair of medium blasters for anti-personnel work and a light turbo laser, which gave it a pretty impressive amount of firepower. Like the TIE Fighter, these tanks were relatively cheap to make, and also had very little defensive capability. The Imperial military was massive, so they had a lot of resources which they could dedicate to very specialized vehicles like the AQ-5 Wave Skimmer. This was essentially a hydrofoil attack vessel used by the Imperial Navy on water worlds. Skimming over the water instead of through it, these light crafts were ridiculously fast with a top speed of 160 km per hour or around 100 miles per hour. The AQ-5 was heavily equipped with 2 medium blaster cannons and 2 light blaster cannons, along with 2 concussion torpedo launchers. It could also carry 28 troops on board, making it pretty ideal for a quick beach assault. The Empire manufactured almost everything, including trains. The 20T Railcrawler Convey X transport train seen in the movie Solo featured a very interesting dual design which had half of the train beneath the tracks. This of course meant that the 20T could only function on a suspended track that was elevated above the ground. The dual carriage design of the train meant that it literally wrapped around the track, greatly increasing the stability of the vehicle and allowing it to travel at a much faster speed. The entire train was completely armored and lacked any windows or viewports, as it was mainly used to transport important materials or individuals. In Legends, Darth Krait's galactic empire waged a war against the pesky fish people of Mon Calamari. In order to successfully fish the Mon Cala out of water, the Galactic Empire used the Acklay-class mobile fortress. This gigantic underwater walker was bristling with laser cannons and could deploy multiple squadrons of Imperial sea troopers into battle. The MTV-7 was quite adorable by Imperial standards. It was essentially a small steamroller-like vehicle deployed by Imperial troops and scout troops. It was used during the invasion of Hoth to scout in advance of the main force on their way to attack Echo Base. The MTV-7 could carry one pilot and was armed with a light laser cannon. So there you have it, guys. Those are 15 very unique and weird Star Wars vehicle designs. My favorite one on this list is the All-Terrain Shock Enforcer. It's like some gigantic primordial T-Rex walker, and I really like it. Let me know in the comment section below which one you like the best. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button. And if you have a chance, check out our Evolution series where we look at all types of walkers and how they evolved. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.